Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay. Yesterday we were okay. I have mailed the note to Mr. Sujit. He will share it among
Yes,
yourself.
ma'am, we have got you through
Okay.
WhatsApp.
Okay. So yesterday we were discussing about Sullivan's theory. We have not completed it. Today we will complete it. Okay. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have discussed some of the concepts of Sullivan. Sullivan's concept of tension and energy transformation. Tension we have already discussed. Tension is potentiality for action, and energy transformations are the actions themselves. So these two energy systems constitute personality according to Sullivan. And Sullivan talks of needs and anxiety. Needs can relate to the general well-being as well as specific body zones such as mouth or genitals. And general well-being needs are psychological. They are interpersonal relations like intimacy. Needs are conjunctive and anxiety is disjunctive. Disjunctive means it doesn't require consistent actions for its relief. And conjunctive means it requires specific actions to reduce them. In addition to giving an interpersonal view of personality, Sullivan also gives a cognitive, Sullivan also has a cognitive approach towards personality. Cognitive views means he describes different ways of perceiving things which constitute our personality. He talks of three types, three ways of perceiving things: prototaxic, parataxic, and syntaxic. These are, we can say, three levels of cognition. Prototaxic level contain the primitive experience of infants. That means prototaxic experiences are impossible to put into words or to communicate to others. Newborn infants experience images mostly on a prototaxic level. So newborn infants, they perceive things at a prototaxic level, means they cannot express them or communicate their experiences to others with words. Above the prototaxic level, there are above the prototaxic level is the parataxic level. Experiences that are pre-logical are called parataxic. Included in these are erroneous assumptions about cause and effect. these assumptions. So the children assume and they hold many assumptions which are not actually correct. Suppose children think they order the clouds and it rains. So it rains because of their orders. This cause and effect relationship are not correct. These are pre-logical. These are not logically correct. Such type of uh, experiences or such this way of thinking is called parataxic distortion. So children think at parataxic level. Finally, there is the syntactic level where children become capable of syntactic language. Children acquire language at about 1.5 years of age when words begin to have the same meaning for them that they do for others. So, meaning of a particular word is same for all. They know this and they use words to communicate their thinking. This is the syntactic level of thinking. Although these three types of experiences or levels of thinking, perception are found in the lifespan of the individual, predominantly syntactic. At syntactic level, we operate. A normal person operates. Enduring aspect of personality, Sullivan also talks of in personality dimensions which are enduring in nature. Such aspects of personality, enduring aspects of personality are dynamism, personification, and self system. Dynamism, by dynamism, Sullivan means characteristic, typical pattern of behavior. This can be equated with our concept of traits. Two types of dynamism, according to Sullivan, are dynamism related to specific zones of the body and dynamism related to tensions. Tension means needs and anxiety. Dynamism can be disjunctive. That means these disjunctive dynamism are called malevolence. They are evil, negative traits. Children who become malevolent have much difficulty giving and receiving tenderness or being intimate with other people. So we know Sullivan's theory is interpersonal in nature. So a type of negative characteristic is there within the child, which are called disjunctive dynamism, and this is the children who have disjunctive dynamism are difficult or feel difficulty in giving and receiving love, and they cannot establish intimate relationship with others. people. And conjunctive dynamism, marked by a close personal relationship between two people of equal status. So conjunctive dynamism is characterized by intimacy. Intimacy facilitates interpersonal development, and intimacy can also result in decrease in anxiety and loneliness. And there are isolating dynamisms, which constitute our self-centered needs, or those needs that can be satisfied in the absence of intimate interpersonal relationship. For example, he gives the example of lust. Lust can be satisfied even in the absence of love. Sexual gratification can be obtained in the absence of love. So it requires isolating dynamisms require no other person for its satisfaction. Whereas disjunctive and conjunctive dynamisms, they always require other people. It may be malevolent or may be benevolent. Then self-system. Self-system in Sullivan's theory can be equated with defense mechanism. The self-system protects us against anxiety and maintains our interpersonal security. So it is self-system is represented through such a pattern of behavior that protects us against anxiety, and it maintains our interpersonal security. Like in Freud's theory, defense mechanism protects our ego against anxiety. Self-system in Sullivan's system theory, self-system protects us against anxiety, protects our interpersonal security, we can say. And self-system is a conjunctive dynamism because as it maintains our interpersonal security, they can the self-system is a conjunctive dynamism. But because its primary job is to protect the self from anxiety, it tends to stifle personality change. So any change is anxiety provoking, anxiety arousing, and self-system's primary duty, primary job is to protect the self from anxiety. So in the process of reduction of anxiety, it contradicts personality change, or it we say it protects us from change in our personality. So our security operation, which self-system does, some operation to protect us against anxiety, and security operation is dissociation, which includes all those experiences that we block from awareness. Like Freud's repression, it is dissociation, blocking from awareness. And another self system is selective inattention. Selective inattention means we block only certain experiences from awareness. Not all experiences are blocked, but some experiences, some specific experiences are blocked. And the third system is second system is personification. Personification means through social interaction and our selective attention or inattention, we develop understanding about ourselves. So this is called personification. So our understanding about ourselves as well as the world, others in the world, are called personifications. Defenses we have discussed, which are in Sullivan's system called self system. Defenses can help reducing anxiety. In the process of reducing anxiety, they can also lead to a misperception of reality. Because we selectively attend something or do not attend at all, we keep our experiences away from awareness. So in this process, the reality is misperceived. Sullivan shifts his focus away from Freud and more toward a cognitive approach to understanding personality. These personifications are mental images. As his approach is a cognitive one, he describes personification as mental images that allow us to understand ourselves and the world. So it is a type of mental framework which within which we interpret our perception or interpret our experiences with the world. So there are three basic ways of perceiving ourselves. They are first one is the bad me, which represents those aspects of the self that are considered negative. So they are hidden from others. And many times we also are not aware of these experiences. The anxiety that we feel is often a result of recognition of the bad part of ourselves. Very often we keep them away from ourselves, but when we recognize that bad part of ourselves, we feel anxiety. So, for example, when we recall an embarrassing moment or experience guilt from a past action, we feel anxiety. So, that is bad me. So, when we recall, when we become aware of the negative aspect of our nature or our experiences, negative experiences, we are governed by the bad me type of mental framework. Second is the good one, good me. The good me is everything we like about ourselves. It represents the part of us we share with others and that we often choose to focus on because it produces no anxiety. All of us attempt to show our show the positive aspects of our nature because we don't feel anxiety about these experiences. That is the good me within us. And the not me represents all those things that are so anxiety provoking that we cannot even consider them a part of us. That means that is more or like seems to be the denial defense. There was a defense mechanism called denial. We do not let the id motives or bad experiences enter into our awareness. We totally deny them from entering into our mind. So, the not me is kept out of awareness by pushing it deep into the unconscious. It is just like Freud's repression. Understood? Clear? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Then let us discuss about developmental epochs. We know Freud's was a stage theory. Like Freud, Sullivan also was of the opinion that childhood experiences determine to a large degree and determine to a large degree the adult personality. So, like Freud, Sullivan was also of the opinion that adult personality is rooted in our childhood experiences. The mother plays the most significant role. He also believed, Sullivan also believed that personality development takes place in stages. That is also a similarity with Freud. But Sullivan named these developmental stages as developmental epochs. So, in Sullivan's theory, there are 7 developmental epochs or 7 developmental stages, we can say. And according to him, these stages are passed in a specific order, but the timing of the onset of these stages is influenced by our social environment. Much of the focus in Sullivan's theory revolved around the conflicts of adolescence. According to him, much of the problem of adulthood arises from the turmoil of our adolescence. Sullivan felt that interpersonal development takes place over 7 stages. Freud talked of 5 stages of development, but Sullivan talked of 7 stages of development, which he called developmental epoch, in which adolescence is emphasized. The role of adolescence experiences are emphasized. So Sullivan's theory of interpersonal development talks of 7 stages of developmental epoch. They start from infancy to adulthood. And out of these 7 stages, 3 stages are devoted to adolescence period. So, from this, we can imagine how important is adolescence stage for Sullivan. Personality changes are most likely to occur during transitions between stages. So there are 7 developmental epochs. First is infancy, which lasts from birth to 1 year. Second is childhood, which spreads over 8 sorry. First stage is infancy, which lasts from birth to 1 year. From birth to about age 1, the child begins the process of developing, but Sullivan did not emphasize the younger years so much. Second stage is childhood, which lasts from 1 year to 5 years, and during this stage, the development of speech and improved communication takes place. Third stage is juvenile, which lasts from 6 to 8 years. The main focus during this stage is the need for playmates and beginning of socialization takes place. Fourth stage is pre-adolescence, which lasts from 9 to 12 years. The child's ability to form a close relationship with a peer is the major focus. The child needs close relationships in order to feel worthy and likable. Without this ability, the child will face difficulty in forming intimate relationships during late adolescence and adulthood. Then the fifth stage is early adolescence, which lasts from 13 to 17 years, and the onset of puberty changes the need. That is the 13 year is the average age when puberty takes place, and during this stage, a need for sexual expression is felt within the early adolescent. Sixth stage is late adolescence, which lasts from 18 to 23 years. And during this stage, the need for friendship and need for sexual expression get combined, and during this stage, a long-term relationship becomes the primary focus. The last stage is adulthood, which begins at 23 years and continues above this year. And the struggle of adulthood include financial security, career, and family. So we can see that Sullivan has some similarity with Freud and some differences with Freud. What are the similarities? Like Freud, Sullivan also believes in the importance of childhood experience, believes in, Sullivan accepts the Freud's idea of defense mechanism, importance of anxiety, and he also believes that development takes place in stages. But the difference is that Freud emphasized on sexuality, whereas Sullivan emphasized on the interpersonal relations. Secondly, according to Freud, development is complete by the age the child reaches adolescence. But Sullivan's theory of development, personality development, goes beyond adolescence. And Sullivan's importance on adolescence, or Freud, according to Freud, the most crucial stage of personality development is the phallic stage. But according to Sullivan, the most crucial stage is adolescence. Phallic stage is our preschool age, 3 to 6 years of age. That is the most important stage according to Freud. But Sullivan says 9 to 20 to 23 years of age is important for the person. How would we evaluate Sullivan? Sullivan's insight into the importance of interpersonal relation definitely is a plus point of his theory. But his theory lost popularity, and his approach to psychotherapy is not so effective. So his theory is not accepted very well among the latter psychologists. It has not generated much research. And the theory has average applicability. It is not very popular. Though due to his importance of interpersonal relations, it has a tremendous social influence. But he doesn't recognize the importance of biology. That's why critics also criticize it. So let us come to our learning theory of personality. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
A learning theory of personality emphasizes observable behavior. We know learning theorists like Pavlov and Skinner. The learning theories are mainly given by two important learning theories given by Pavlov and Skinner, and they are behaviorists. They emphasize on observable behavior. The relationship between stimulus and response, and the impact of learning the learning the association between stimulus and response are given emphasis. The behaviorist position is that personality is nothing but a set of learned behavior patterns or learned habits. They do not give importance to the internal causes of behavior. Like any other learned behavior, personality is also acquired through classical and operant conditioning, observational learning, and they emphasize the role of reinforcement in the development of personality. They argue that a person is, suppose we say a person is shy. How do we know that the person is shy? Shyness is something within the individual. Personality characteristic, we can say, trait. But how do we know that the person is shy? Because the person's behavior, the person behaves in a shy manner. We observe that he behaves in a shy manner. And why the person behaves like this? Because his behavior has been reinforced in the past. This person has been reinforced for showing shy behavior. That's why he is now showing shy behavior. So there is nothing internal. He has learned the behavior through reinforcement, and personality is just a set of habits, learned habits, we can say. Let us discuss Pavlov's learning theory of personality. Pavlov, we know as a behaviorist, his theory also focused on observable behavior. Behaviorists argue that behavior can be measured, but we cannot measure thought. So observable behavior is important. And Pavlov viewed individual differences in personality as the result of learning and different environmental experiences. That means experiences with regard to reinforcement. Pavlov studied the conditioning of reflexes, that is automatic behaviors, that are caused by a stimulus from the environment. He calls this as conditioning. Conditioning has been defined as a form of learning in which capacity of eliciting a response is transferred from one stimulus to another. So Pavlov's theory, Pavlov gave the idea of classical conditioning, and this classical conditioning is a form of learning in which capacity of eliciting response is transferred from one stimulus to another. That capacity on the part of a particular stimulus is transferred to another. What happens in classical conditioning? The famous classical conditioning, you all know. There is a neutral stimulus, say bell, which is presented for a brief period of time, followed quickly by a stimulus, say food. And since Pavlov experimented with a dog, food was meat powder, and when food was given to the dog salivated. That means because salivation is the natural response to food. So food elicits salivation. This is food is called unconditioned stimulus. Why unconditioned? Because no conditioning is required on the part of the food in order to elicit salivation. So food is here the unconditioned stimulus, or UCS. and bell is a neutral stimulus. When we ring the bell just before the presentation of the UCS, that is food, for several times, uh, gradually the bell acquires the ability to evoke salivation. The dog starts salivating at the sound of the bell, even if food is not given. So, because the salivation to the bell began to occur only after the conditioning, it was termed conditioned response. At first, bell was not eliciting salivation. After conditioning, after the establishment of association between the bell and the food, the dog begins to salivate. That's why here the bell is termed as conditioned response. That is a CR. Conditioned stimulus. Salivation to the bell, sound of the bell is called conditioned response. Salivation is the response. So bell is the conditioned stimulus, food is the unconditioned stimulus, and salivation to the sound of the bell is conditioned response. Salivation to the food is called unconditioned response. Understood?
Ma'am, can you repeat it again?
Which part? You see,
Salivation unconditional.
what we do in the experiment, first we present the bell, sound of the bell. Okay, sound of the bell doesn't elicit salivation in the dog. Okay, then we ring the bell just after, within a brief period of time, food is given. Okay, so food, in response to food, the dog salivates, because salivation is the natural response to food. No learning is required to elicit salivation to in response to food. The food is called unconditioned stimulus, and salivation to food is called unconditioned response, because no conditioning is required. It is its natural reaction. Okay, understood?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
when we present repeatedly, the bell quickly followed by food, what happens? The gradually the bell acquires the ability to elicit salivation in the dog. So the dog starts salivating at the sound of a bell before food is given, or even if food is not given. So the bell acquires the ability to elicit salivation. The conditioning is required. The dog learns the association between bell and the unconditioned stimulus, that is food. So because the dog learns or comes to know that to know the association between bell and food, he knows that bell is associated with food, he starts salivating. And the here when the bell has acquired the ability to elicit salivation, it becomes the conditioned stimulus. Okay, and salivation in response to the sound of the bell is called conditioned response. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Pavlov stated that a conditioned stimulus can serve as the basis for further conditioning, which is also demonstrated by Pavlov. In the past of in the experiment, what he did, bell is ringing. Then, instead of food, a new stimulus, light, is presented. So there is the instead of pairing of bell and food, pairing after the conditioning is established, he changed the UCS, that is first order food was not given, the bell was paired with light. So here the bell becomes UCS and the light gradually acquires the property of eliciting the response. So this is called second order conditioning. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Like this, third order conditioning can also be established, though it is very weak. Let us discuss the principles of classical conditioning. First principle is acquisition. There are two important factors which exert strong influence upon the ability of a conditioned stimulus to elicit a response. Okay. What is the conditioned stimulus? Here in our experiment, it is the bell. Okay. So the bell elicits response, so salivation. And one factor determining the elicitation of response by the conditioned stimulus is the number of pairings between this conditioned stimulus and the unconditioned stimulus. Unconditioned stimulus is food. So the number of pairings, the stronger the CS evoking a CR. CR is salivation to the sound of bell. Okay, same salivation, but it is the stimulus is different. So the strength of the response is measured in terms of magnitude, latency, and probability of occurrence of the condition response. Second factor, first factor is the number of paired presentation of the CS and UCS. The second factor influencing this conditioning is the interval which lapses between the presentation of CS and UCS. If UCS is given much later, CS bell rings and after 1 hour food is given. Okay, the establishment or the association between the CS and UCS may not be conditioned. The conditioning may not be established, and the animal may not give any CR, conditioned response. And from many different experiments, it has been found that conditioning is maximal when the interval is 0.50 seconds, interval between the CS and the UCS. Presentation of CS and presentation of UCS are 0.50 seconds apart in time. And Martin Seligman noted that humans learn strong aversion to the tastes of foods, which makes them sick many hours after they have eaten. Suppose I eat bora from a particular shop. Now I eat, and tomorrow I feel that my stomach is upset. Okay, or I am suffering from diarrhea. Several times after taking bora from that particular shop, if I have diarrhea, though the diarrhea may be and there after 1 or 2 days, we can associate bora from that particular soap and diarrhea, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
So the acquisition of irrational fears or phobias, prejudices, and hostile feelings have successfully been explained through the process of classical conditioning. In both cases, stimuli initially incapable of eliciting strong reaction acquire this ability through repeated pairings with the unconditional stimuli. The second concept in Pavlov's theory is generalization and discrimination. Once the organism is conditioned to one stimulus, it is often found that it will respond to other stimuli. Okay, so the other stimuli, which are similar in some dimension to the original stimulus, may be able to elicit the CR. Okay. This phenomenon is known as a stimulus generalization. Stimulus generalization plays a very important adaptive role. For example, the sounds made by angry bees, wasps are highly similar, but certainly not identical. Because of stimulus generalization, we have learned through painful experience of their bite, we learn to react with the fear and we attempt to run away. Opposite to this phenomenon is stimulus discrimination. Within the framework of classical conditioning, the ability to discriminate between two stimuli is developed when one of the two similar stimuli is consistently followed by an unconditioned stimulus, while the other is not. So there are two similar stimuli and the organism is reinforced for one stimulus and not reinforced for the other. Through this procedure, the animal learns to respond to the stimulus after which food was given, and the animal also learns not to respond to the stimulus which is not followed by food. So the tendency to respond to the first stimulus, which was followed by the food, is strengthened, while the tendency to respond to the second stimulus, which was not followed by food, is weakened. And there is also evidence of development of experimental neuroses, because when the similarity between the two stimuli is so much, there the difference is very less. The animal is confused, and so neurotic behavior. So Pavlov attributed this experimental neurosis to a disturbance of the balance between the excitatory and inhibitory processes in the nervous system. So the balance between the excitatory and inhibitory potential in the nervous system gets disturbed due to this procedure, and experimental neurosis is produced. This explanation of experimental neurosis is the basis of Pavlov's theory of personality. He explained personality as the variation in the excitation of the nervous system. Although the experiment was conducted on an animal, the results of such experiments also suggest that though the ability of human beings to discriminate between stimuli is high, yet their ability to discriminate between highly similar stimuli has definite limits. When these limits are exceeded, extreme stress may be induced. When the similarity between these two stimuli is very close, the organism may experience stress. Third concept is extinction and spontaneous recovery. When a conditioned stimulus is repeatedly presented without being followed by the unconditioned stimulus with which it was formerly associated, its ability to elicit conditioned response gradually decreases and may fade completely. So what we do, we present the bell. After conditioning is established, we present the bell and we do not give food. So now bell is not followed by the presentation of food, and for several times we present the bell and do not present the food. Then the bell loses its ability to elicit salivation. This is called as extinction. But if the same extinguished stimulus is presented again at a later time, its capacity to evoke the response is found to reappear. This phenomenon is termed spontaneous recovery. Extinction of conditioned response is also very important for the development of normal personality. If extinction doesn't occur, then we cannot get rid of useless reactions to stimuli, which no longer serve as a reliable cue for the occurrence of such events. If extinction doesn't occur, even if the bell is not followed by food, the animal salivates to the sound of bell, and it cannot forget that the animal has the bell. The animal cannot forget that the bell is no longer serve as a cue for the presentation of food. It goes on eliciting to the bell. So spontaneous, extinction has many adaptive role. And process of behavior modification. Pavlov suggested several techniques to modify behavior. One of these techniques is a systematic desensitization. It is an important technique successfully used in dealing with a wide range of maladaptive behaviors, including examination, anxiety, phobias, nightmares, etc. This is based on the principle of extinction. Systematic desensitization is based on the principle of extinction. Another technique is aversion therapy. It is based on counter conditioning, which has been found useful for treating alcoholism and nicotine addiction. According to Pavlovian principles, addiction occurs because of both the pleasurable physiological effects of alcohol, that is unconditioned stimuli, and the taste of alcohol, that is the conditioned stimuli. If the taste of alcohol is paired with an unpleasant effect, such as nausea or vomiting, the result will be an aversion for the substance that is alcohol. We take alcohol and the effect is pleasurable. That's why we take more and more alcohol. But if we take alcohol and rather than enjoying the taste of alcohol, the effect is nausea and vomiting, painful effect, then we would gradually develop an aversion for alcohol. Evaluation of Pavlov's theory. Originally, Pavlov's theory was aimed to explain learning process, and the principles of classical conditioning were found to be applicable for explaining the development of many psychopathologies. Although Pavlov theory is able to explain the development and change of a number of aspects of personality, but is unable to explain the total personality of human beings. It is not holistic. Moreover, since many of his principles are drawn from the experiments conducted on animals, it is doubtful if these principles can also be applied to human beings. Let us discuss the theory of B.F. Skinner. Skinner, we know that he is also a behaviorist. And his theory of personality, unlike the psychodynamic theories, personality did not grow out of therapeutic situations. Rather, Skinner's theory emerged from experiments carried out in laboratory settings. Skinner derived his principles of learning from the study of individual subjects in precisely controlled conditions, controlled laboratory conditions. He focused on the study of individual subjects instead of generalized group because he was believing that law of control individual behavior can be controlled and the effect can be seen. So he attempted to develop general laws by studying the individual. His theory emphasized some particular aspects of human nature like determinism, that means behavior is determined by reinforcement here. Determinism, changeability, behavior can be changed. Objectivity, behaviorists are always objective. And reactivity, while rejecting the aspects like rationality, irrationality, homeostasis, etc. So he didn't consider the internal sources of human behavior. According to Skinner, for studying the potentiality, one has to discover the relationship between the behavior of the organism and the conditions reinforcing this behavior. So, which conditions have reinforced the development of that behavior? We have to study it. Operant behavior. Skinner's theory is known as operant conditioning theory, and according to Skinner studied the operant behavior. Operant behavior means, according to Skinner, behavior can be distinguished as respondent and operant. Respondent behaviors are those which are elicited by the stimuli. In Pavlov's case, salivation is a behavior which is a respondent because it was elicited by the stimulus. These behaviors are involuntary and automatically, whereas operant behaviors, on the other hand, are performed by the individual voluntarily. So, an individual can perform the behavior voluntarily. Skinner was of the opinion that behaviors of human beings are predominantly operant in nature. The strength of these responses increases when the response occurs and is followed by reinforcement. So the role of reinforcement is much emphasized in Skinner's theory. An operant thus is a response that operates on the environment and changes it. That is operant. The changes in the environment affect the subsequent occurrence of the response. And in operant conditioning, therefore, the reinforcer is not associated with an eliciting stimulus. Instead, it is associated with the response. In classical conditioning, the reinforcer was food, and food was associated with the bell. So UCS was the reinforcement, and it is a stimulus, and it is associated with another stimulus. That's why our classical conditioning is SS association, stimulus association. But in classical, operant conditioning, the reinforcement is associated with the response. If the animal shows the desired behavior, reinforcement is given. So there is the association between stimulus and response as a result of reinforcement. In Skinner box, Skinner, we know, Skinner experimented with a Skinner box. Skinner box is a special cage that has a bar or lever on one wall. When the lever is pressed, a food pellet is released into the cage. The rat is when the rat is left inside the cage, that is a Skinner box, it makes random movements, and accidentally the rat presses the lever, and when the lever is pressed, a food pellet is released, so the rat receives a food pellet. That is the reinforcement. So in operant conditioning, it is essential that reinforcer be presented after the occurrence of the response. The animal shows a particular response, and is given. So animal shows the operant response, and as a result of his response, conditional to the operant response, a reinforcer is given. Or we can say reinforcement is given. There is reinforcement. A reinforcer is defined as anything that strengthens a tendency to behave in a particular way. Food satisfies hunger, so we eat. Money reinforces the likelihood that we will keep working. Which strengthens the tendency to act is called as a reinforcer. In other words, a reinforcer is a stimulus event which, if it occurs in the proper temporal relation with a response, tends to maintain or to increase the strength of the response. So, if the stimulus event in relation to a response can maintain or increase the strength of a response, we can say that a stimulus event as a reinforcer. So reinforcer always strengthens a response. Reinforcer may either be positive or negative. The likelihood of the behavior will be increased by the positive reinforcement. Always reinforcement increases the likelihood of the behavior. What is positive reinforcement is that something is given to strengthen the behavior. Here food is given to strengthen the lever pressing behavior of the rat. So food here is a positive reinforcement. What is negative reinforcement? Something unpleasant is removed, taken away in order to strengthen a behavior. For example, if you touch the zebra crossing, you will be fined. So, in order to avoid the fine, you do not touch the zebra crossing. Okay, if you if you don't wear the helmet, you will be fined. So, in order to avoid fine, you are wearing helmet. So, fine if removed, fine if taken away, strengthens the habit of wearing the helmet. So fine here fine is a negative reinforcement. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
And a behavior that is no longer followed by the reinforcing stimulus results in a decreased probability of that behavior. That is known as process of extinction. So when the behavior is no longer followed by reinforcement, extinction occurs. Skinner also talked of several schedules of reinforcement. That means he tried to see if the effect of reduction of reinforcement. That means each time the animal shows a particular response, we give reinforcement. Skinner tried to see that how does the animal behave when reinforcement is not given each time the animal shows that particular behavior. Okay. And Skinner talked of continuous reinforcement and intermittent reinforcement. Continuous reinforcement schedule is that every time the rat does the behavior, which behavior in Skinner's experiment? Liver pressing. So if each time the rat presses the liver, it gets the food. That is continuous reinforcement. What is intermittent reinforcement? In intermittent reinforcement schedule, the rat doesn't get the reinforcement every time he presses the liver. It is further divided into two types, the fixed ratio and the fixed interval. In fixed ratio schedule, the animal gets reinforcement after a fixed number of responses. It doesn't get a reinforcement each time it shows the response. Rather, the animal is reinforced after a fixed number of responses. Say, we would give food pellet to the animal after each third response. When the animal shows 3 responses, it gets a food pellet. Again 3 responses, it gets a food pellet. Okay, that is fixed ratio schedule. Whereas in fixed interval schedule, if the rat presses the liver at least once during a particular stretch of time, then he gets reinforcement, no matter how many times he emits the response. So after a fixed interval of time, the animal gets the reinforcement. Suppose we decide that we would reinforce the rat after each 20 seconds. So within 20 seconds, the rat may show the behavior twice, or it might have also shown the behavior 10 times. So whatever the number of responses, the animal will be reinforced each 20 seconds. Skinner also looked at variable ratios. Variable ratios and variable schedules. Variable intervals. Sorry. Variable ratios and variable intervals. Variable ratio means we change the ratio each time. Suppose first it takes 3 presses to get the food, then 10, then 1, then 7. In fixed ratio, we were reinforcing the animal after a fixed number of responses. But in variable ratio, the number of responses after which the reinforcement will be given varies. Maybe first reinforcement is given after the first response. Then after the second response, the animal doesn't get any response. So say we, after 3 responses, we may reinforce the animal. Then after 5 responses, we give the reinforcement. Then after again 1 response, we give the reinforcement. So the number of responses required to get the reinforcement varies. That is variable ratio. Variable interval means you keep changing the time period. First, after 20 seconds, we reinforce the animal. Then after 5 seconds, then after 35 seconds. Okay. So with the variable interval schedule, they no longer pace themselves. Because they can no longer establish a rhythm between behavior and reward. They cannot know when they will get the reward. And most importantly, variable schedules are very resistant to extinction, particularly variable ratio schedules. They are very resistant to extinction. Aversive stimuli. An aversive stimulus is the opposite of a reinforcing stimulus. Something we might find unpleasant or painful. What is reinforcement? Reinforcement always strengthens a behavior. The goal of reinforcement is to strengthen the behavior, and something which, when given to the animal, strengthens his behavior is positive reinforcement, and when something is taken away or is removed in order to make the animal respond is negative reinforcement. Whereas aversive stimulus, as the name suggests, are always unpleasant or painful, and aversive stimulus results in a decreased probability of the behavior. Okay, if the behavior is followed by an aversive stimulus, the probability of behavior occurring in future decreases. This is also known as punishment. So punishment is something, try to understand the difference. Punishment is something which, when given after a particular behavior, the probability of that behavior decreases. However, Skinner doesn't approve of the use of aversive stimuli. Punishment, he was never in favor of punishment. Psychologists, they do not approve punishment, use of punishment. Secondary reinforcement. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Secondary reinforcement. What is secondary reinforcement? Suppose a neutral stimulus presented at the time of delivering the reinforcement, it tends to acquire the reinforcing ability. For example, in the Skinner box, at the time of delivering reinforcement, a click sound is produced repeatedly each time the reinforcement is delivered. So each time the reinforcement is given, a click sound is produced. It was found that this click sound itself acquires the reinforcing characteristics being associated with the original reinforcer. Then that is the click sound, the neutral stimulus, which was originally a neutral stimulus. It acquires the reinforcing characteristics of the original reinforcer. When it acquires the reinforcing characteristic of the original reinforcer, it is known as secondary reinforcer. Secondary reinforcers are of great importance in controlling human behavior, according to Skinner. Because it is obvious that our every action is not maintained by the presentation of unconditioned or primary reinforcers, such as food, water, and sex, etc. It is possible to reason that much of our behaviors relies on secondary reinforcement. The most common example of secondary reinforcer is money, because with money we can have something pleasurable which can reduce our need. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Then superstitious behavior. The type of conditioning in which there is no causal relationship between the response and the reinforcer is referred by Skinner as a superstitious conditioning. When the reinforcement happens to occur purely due to chance factor, at the time the individual made a particular response, the individual started to believe that the particular response made by him was the cause for getting the reinforcement. While there was no functional or causal relationship between the response he made and the reinforcement he got. Okay, so just due to chance factor, something is present and reinforcement is given to individual's behavior. The individual thinks or believes that thing which was present at the time of getting reinforcement caused the reinforcement. For example, a cat crossing our way. A superstition commonly found in our society, Indian society. Suppose you were going for some important work, or suppose you are going to appear your examination. When you were on the way, a cat happens to cross the way. Okay, if you could not do well in the examination due to one or other reasons, you started to believe that your failure in examination was due to the cat crossing your way. While in reality, there was no functional relationship between the cat crossing your way and the performance in the examination. You failed because maybe your preparation was not adequate. Maybe the examiner was very tough and the evaluation was very examiner was very strict and he gave very low marks when he evaluated the paper, but you attribute your failure to the cat crossing your way. And how do abnormal behaviors develop according to Skinner? Skinner did not accept the constructs like repressed wishes, identity crisis, conflicts between ego, superego, etc. For explaining abnormal behaviors. These terms were used by the psychodynamic theorists, but behaviorists do not accept these constructs. Skinner, on the other hand, advocated that, like all behavior, abnormal behaviors are also learned through operant conditioning, and they also develop through the same principle like the normal behavior. As we learn normal behavior, we learn abnormal behavior. For the treatment of abnormal behavior, Skinner repeatedly asserted that the goal is simply to replace abnormal behavior with normal behavior. So the undesirable behavior can be modified by the manipulation of the environment. How the undesirable behavior is to be extinguished, and in place of that undesirable undesirable behavior, the desired behavior has to be learned. So we have to extinguish an undesirable behavior and replace it with a desirable behavior by reinforcement. It has been used on all sorts of psychological problems such as addiction, neurosis, shyness, autism, etc. Even the some of the undesirable behavior of the schizophrenic patients when they are stable can also be replaced with desirable behavior. When the schizophrenic patient is stable after taking medicine, the desirable behavior can be taught to him through the principles of operant conditioning. It has been observed that the technique works particularly well with children also. They have also many behavior modification techniques like token economy, etc. You must have been taught it during your clinical psychology paper. Then evaluation of Skinner's theory. Skinner's theory is based upon impressive experimental evidence. So it is supported by a number of scientific and testable constructs which have been supported by research findings. So the theory is very scientific and objective and supported by research findings. Moreover, Skinner, in his theory of personality, places great emphasis on the importance of the environment to explain the situational variations in behavior. The theory has useful therapeutic applications. Behavior modification techniques are there, and psychotherapists, behavioristically oriented psychotherapists have used the principles of operant conditioning for treating a variety of behavior problems successfully. However, Skinner's theory has also been criticized by some researchers. Skinner's theory tends to explain specific behavior and behavior changes, but not a comprehensive theory of personality. The word personality itself seems missing from the theory because personality is something important, something internal, characteristic of the individual, as other researchers say. And Skinner reduced the holistic term personality to a set of learned behavior. And the role of biological factors has been ignored. Skinner overlooked the individual differences present from birth. The role of heredity is not discussed by Skinner. While nowadays many of our personality traits have been found to be moderately heritable. Skinner gave a very mechanical view of human behavior, ignoring the importance of their free will. Skinner treated the human beings mechanically, as if they do not have any, they are machines and they do not have any free will of their own. So the theory is a deterministic theory, which argues that behavior is determined by reinforcement. Okay? Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubt?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. Let us discuss about the socio-cognitive views on personality. Actually, after the behaviorists, some behaviorists After Skinner, some behaviorists believe that they are right when they say that personality is learned and influenced by environmental experiences, such as reinforcement. But they do not accept Skinner's view that the characteristics of the person are irrelevant in understanding personality. So those behaviorists who believe in the role of learning and reinforcement, as well as recognize the importance of individuals' characteristics, they are called social cognitive learning theorists. Or social cognitive theorists. They emphasize the role of environment as well as persons' cognitive factors like expectancies, beliefs, etc. On learning. They believe that personality can be formed by observational learning, modeling, and other cognitive learning techniques. Albert Bandura and Walter Mischel are advocates of this view. So Albert Bandura gave the theory or concept of observational learning. Bandura believes that observational learning is a key aspect of how we learn. Through observational learning, according to Bandura, we form ideas about the behavior of others and then possibly adopt this behavior ourselves. We acquire a wide range of behavior, thought, and feeling through observing others' behavior. According to Bandura, these observations form an important part of our personality. They are of the, or Bandura was of the opinion that we can also regulate and control our own behavior despite environmental influences. Yes, reinforcement is important, but despite the importance of reinforcement, we can also control our own behavior. So we imitate or observe the behavior of others and acquire this behavior, adopt this behavior to ourselves, and that is known as also modeling. The model is the person whose behavior we are imitating. So amount of learning is more when the model is attractive, trustworthy, appears to be competent, similar to observer, and possesses social power. We very often imitate the behavior of film stars because they are attractive. We similarly, very often we say that Mahatma Gandhi was doing this, so we should do that particular, show that particular behavior, because Mahatma Gandhi was, we know, a competent and trustworthy person. Another concept in observational learning is vicarious reinforcement. Vicarious reinforcement is a situation in which reinforcement obtained by someone else has a reinforcing effect on the observer. We see someone else being reinforced, and we feel that we get the reinforcement. People applaud when the villain in the film is defeated and the hero gets the love of the heroine. So, self-regulation is a concept given by Bandura. Bandura believes that I have already told that people can regulate and control their own behavior despite environmental influences. So, self-regulation involves using one's cognitive processes to regulate and control one's own behavior. This often involves self-reward. Achieving a given standard of performance is self-rewarding. Suppose we try to write an essay, and when the essay we write up to our the up to the level that matches our satisfaction level, then we feel self rewarded. Self efficacy is the belief that one can master a situation and produce positive outcomes. How effective one's behavior will be in a particular situation. So the individual's belief about how effective his or her behavior is in a particular situation is his self-efficacy. It is the person's perception of how effective his behavior will be in a particular circumstance. So, self-efficacy is related to a number of positive developments in people's lives, including solving problems, coping with stress, developing healthy habits, etc., like quitting smoking, etc., exercise, initiating exercise program. For all these behaviors, self-efficacy is very much required. And people's sense of self-efficacy can be high or low depending on what has happened in similar circumstances in the past. So their success or failure experiences in the past can influence their self-efficacy. Another factor which influences the self-efficacy is what other people tell them about their competence. Third factor influencing self-efficacy is the person's own assessment of his abilities. So, three things are important for the development of self-efficacy, or for the level of self-efficacy. First, the person's success or failure experiences, past experiences. Second, what others tell them about their competence. And third, their own assessment of their behavior. So depending on these three things, three factors, self-efficacy can be high or low. So people differ in their level of self-efficacy. Reciprocal determinism. Bandura believes that behavior is determined by three factors. First, the environment. Second, the person's personal and cognitive factors. And third, the behavior itself. These triadic reciprocal, each factor influences and is influenced by the other two: environment, person's personal and cognitive factors, and the behavior itself. So they are in a reciprocal, these three factors are in a reciprocal or give and take relationship. This triadic reciprocal causation model is known as reciprocal determinism. Suppose I give you an example. Suppose the environment is you are in a class which is very boring to you. Okay, so environment is boring to you. Second, you are the person, and your personal belief is that you can, by your behavior, you can make other people happy who are in the class and feeling bored. You can make them happy. That is the second factor, your personal belief. And your behavior is that you suppose you start singing. So due to your behavior, that you can change the class environment, you started singing. Okay, your singing, if you sing, you can sing well, it can also change your behavior or strengthen your belief. On the other hand, if you cannot sing well, you try to sing but you cannot sing well, then it also will influence your belief or your self-assessment. Okay, so these two are in a give and take relationship. The two, each of these two influences and is influenced by the other one. Similarly, when you sing, the class environment, all students sitting in the class become happy. They do not feel bored. So it becomes interesting. So you also influenced by your behavior. You influenced the environment, and the environment also can influence your behavior. Suppose somebody scolds you, why are you singing in the class? Then you will stop singing. So each one is in a give and take relationship with the other. So three factors are responsible for behavior, and these factors are in a reciprocal cause-effect relationship. So this model is known as reciprocal determinism. And the second factor, person's personal and cognitive factors consists of a number of factors: your belief, your interest, your ambitions, etc., etc. Expectancies, your personal dispositions, everything comes under your personal and cognitive factors. And among the personal variables, Bandura believes that self-efficacy is the most important. And this is the reciprocal determinism model.
Ma'am, can you send this slides to the WhatsApp group?
I can mail it. Okay, I will mail it to Mr.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Then let us evaluate Bandura's theory. Bandura's theory ignores the role of biology, role of maturation, hormonal influences, etc. on personality. So biological factors are ignored. It also ignores the role of unconscious processes. It is a reductionist approach. And that means the theory tries to explain the complex concept of personality with the help of a few factors. And the theory appears too mechanical. The role of emotions are not discussed. However, the theory, on the positive side, the theory is comprehensive. It adequately describes acquisition, maintenance, and change of behavior. Bandura's theory explains behavior on the basis of few assumptions. So, not too much terminologies, too much concepts are used to explain the theory. The theory has high degree of empirical validity. That means experimental evidences are there, and it had considerable impact on the areas of health psychology, social psychology, vocational counseling, etc. So applicability of this theory is very high. Hence, the theory is heuristic. The heuristic value of the theory is very high. The theory is also applied in education and behavior therapy. So, I think we should stop here. If you have any doubt, please ask.
Ma'am,
Yes?
can I repeat again our class like reciprocal determination? I understood the example, but I cannot get the any definition of that particular things. So can I
Okay.
please? And a second thing, I am request to you, ma'am. Can you please explain to Hindi language, ma'am? Because of I know about that.
हिंदी में बताना है.
Yes, ma'am. I am very curious to that. So that's why I know the Hindi language.
Okay. Hindi, I am not very fluent in Hindi, but let me try.
Okay, no problem, ma'am. If you
हाँ.
English,
So, ये बांदुरा के हिसाब से तीन चीजें बिहेवियर के लिए इम्पोर्टेंट है. These three things are.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. I get the point. Like three is the most important, like the environment, cognitive knowledge or behavior. I know that, but I not get the point. Like proper definition of that reciprocal determination. So
These three. So why there is echo?
Okay, ma'am. If you have problem, then you will continue the
नहीं
ODL class or English language, no problem.
नहीं these three factors are in reciprocal cause and effective relationship. Each factor is in a reciprocal cause and effect relationship with the other two. So that this triadic reciprocal cause and effect model is known as reciprocal determinism. Okay. There is echo.
No issues from your side, ma'am. Oh, Vikas need to mute himself.
Why there is echo? So, the reciprocal determinism means behavior. Determinism means the view that believes that behavior is deterministic. Something determines behavior, and these three factors determine behavior. And these three factors are each of these three factors in a cause and effect relationship with the other two. Each factor is reciprocally related. Each factor is in a reciprocal or give and take relationship. Each factor is influenced as well as influences by the other two factors. That's why the model is known as a reciprocal determinism model. So I gave you the example how you think your behavior, you can change the environment of your classroom. So you behave in a certain way. So you change your belief changes your behavior, and the behavior, if successfully is shown, then it also strengthens your belief. So both these two factors influence each other. Okay, and your behavior can also change the environment. If you your environment through reinforcement or vicarious reinforcement, whatever it may be, can also change your behavior. Okay. So they are also in a reciprocal relationship with each other. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
So let us stop here, and we'll see you in the next class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.